Immigration is canceled.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is admitting that his immigration policies have been totally incompetent. In fact, the ratio of new people to new homes reached its highest level in recorded history last year after his then immigration minister, now housing minister, ignored the warnings of his own department. The rent is expected to rise to $7,500 in Vancouver and $5,500 in Toronto if the trajectory continues. Will he reverse course now?
Today, we're announcing that we will reduce the number of immigrants we bring in over the next 3 years, which will result in a pause in the population growth over the next 2 years.
As you can see, there are a lot of changes happening around lately, and after watching this video and seeing my breakdown of how this population is going to impact the real estate market, and you want to chat about your unique situation, especially if you're an investor thinking that, hey, I'm going to get out of here, make sure you book a call with me using the link that's on the screen right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and the time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Prime Properties TO. If you're new here, my name is Zen, and I own and run a RE/MAX in the Greater Toronto Area, where we help a lot of our clients buy, sell, and invest in real estate. And on top of doing that, obviously I make this awesome real estate content so that you guys understand what exactly is happening in the real estate market. And if you're enjoying the content, do me a favor and like and subscribe. Canada's population is about to shrink for the first time since the last World War. Yeah, that's just some context for you. Just the gravity of what this video is going to be, right? Because even during the pandemic, our population grew on a year-over-year basis. It was kind of like a little blip, right? Where, people stopped flying. But yeah, you heard me right. We're not just reducing the amount of immigration. It's actually going to go the opposite way if, again, this is a really big if Trudeau and the Liberals' plan is actually going to get executed, assuming they're still in power, right? And I'm going to show you the impacts of this immigration / population shrinkage on the real estate market outside of, the obvious, population growth point that everyone's going to be talking about, right? So right now, I suspect that the Liberals know they really screwed up with the amount of people they let into the country, because now for a very immigration-friendly nation, we're now talking about like reducing immigration, right? And honestly, this is all probably just to cover up their GDP mess. However, with the potential election not going in their favor, I think they finally decided to reverse course on their massive population plans and reduce it. Here are their plans. I'm going to point you right to the important one. 450,000 reduction in population. Yep, that's a lot. So we passed 41 million people in April sometime this year, and the number of non-permanent residents, or what I'm going to say NPR for short in this video, represents 7% of the current population of all of Canada. That's like 2.8 million people. And for like illustrative purposes, that is 200,000 people shy of the entire city of Toronto proper. Yeah, it's a lot, right? Just think about that for a minute. That's how large this group of NPRs are right now. And this chart shows you how they're made up of. Now, the work and the study permit was already going down with previous restrictions on some of these strip malls. And obviously we have a slowdown economy. People may not be coming here for work, right? On top of that, with the work permits, we're going into an economic recession and there could be a lot less job opportunities. So why would you want to come here, or why would you want to stay, unless you're staying here because you were promised permanent residence or PR, right? So it's very obvious if they're going to trim the population where it's going to start, which could be a problem culturally, right? Because if you remember this, now just imagine on a larger scale. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Now this over here is our population growth. And you can see it's mostly bonkers, and it mostly comprises of non-permanent residents or NPRs. And if we're going to plan on reducing the permanent residents or PR permits we give out by 20%, it's likely going to be the NPRs who've been waiting here for their PRs. And I bet you that line waiting for the PR is going to get really long, right? So with approximately 2.8 million NPRs, or whoever left is remaining, and we got 450,000 new PR permits a year, assuming 2.8 million, that's like 6 years worth of PRs that are backlogged. Yeah. This is why I'm not betting all of them will be in Canada in the long run, and hence why the population is shrinking. It's just math, right? Now, here's the problem from a real estate perspective. Everyone has always been bullish on real estate because it kind of stemmed from population. We have so many people for our houses that we don't build enough of, and these widgets we're trying to create. Well, that was my thesis for the long term as well. And I've always said, in the short term, 30 to 60 days, inventory dictates prices. Medium term, you have interest rates and the economy. And long term, you have the demographics, which is where the population kind of comes into play. This right now is clearly a very big long tail risk if the population continues to shrink, right? Having said that, we've kind of like had supply problems building up for the last decade, but this is where it's going to get interesting, right? The demand valve, because of the population, just got shut off. And the first to get hit, which will be immediate effect, is going to be in the rental market. Look at this chart right here. When you map population growth as a percentage to the rental rate increase or decrease as a percentage, it's the same line, right? So you can see as population has gone up, so have rental rates. What is going to happen when the population starts shrinking? Yep. Rental rates are going to come down. The rental market already this year was kind of like limping along. And with rents actually falling for the first time this year, I suspect with this, demand on the rental side turned off, we're really going to start seeing rents decrease. How much, I don't know, but it's clearly going in that direction. Then when you marry this with the completions we have in the GTA, where half of it goes to the rental market, these are like condos, talk about oversupply at the wrong time, right? Yeah. Then you want to have a look at this pipeline of product that's coming in the next few years, which is all purpose-built rentals. And you can see in Ontario, it's like 6% of the current rental stock, meaning if the economy does not get better and people decide to move out on their own and have new family formations, whether with a partner or actually starting or on your own, instead of banding together and finding a place to live right now or living at home to cut costs where you have reduction in family formation, this new inventory ain't being absorbed. Yep. This could be a pretty large increase in the vacancy rate of 6%. And for, example, we hover around 2 generally. So you got bad economy, bad immigration news, bad upcoming supply, and this is a bad timing for all this poo-poo to hit the Toronto real estate market. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. Now, having said all this, right, it's all like, doomsday. Most of the purpose-built rental stock tends to be apartment/condos. And currently our team on the rental side is still seeing a very strong demand for ground-based entire homes. So I think that is going to continue being decently strong, which kind of adds to my point, like I said this year, where the freehold and the high-rise condo market are going to be 2 totally different markets, and you really got to look at each of them before you figure out what you want to do, right? So the bifurcation will continue to happen even with this news. Now, how this is going to affect the resale side, meaning prices of real estate right now, there's definitely going to be those who plan to sell given this news. Mostly, I would say investors, right? Especially if this population becomes such a big drag and such a big headwind for them, right? Because if rents aren't going up, it means revenues aren't going up. It doesn't even matter what the rent increases is. It's going to come down because there's supply pressure. And then when there's less demand for your property, there's definitely going to be a lot less potential for appreciation in the long term, given the lack of demand for that product, right? Which means if there are any investors that weren't already scared off by the high rates in the last few years and investing, they might be with this, right? Especially if you're cash flow negative. Now, currently on this chart, you can see that 30% of the mortgaged properties are owned by investors. So there's a good amount. What the size of that mortgage is doesn't say in this chart. But whether this really goes up or down depends on where the mortgage rates land and whether the lowest rate can offset the drop in the rent. Now, speaking of rates and mortgage rates, given this population reduction, you better bet the Bank of Canada now has way more clearance to continue dropping the rates well below the 2.5% terminal rate that they aim for. The runway for lower rates just got longer and longer, right? Why? Because the GDP in Canada is basically the productivity of the people times the amount of people. And the more people you have, the higher the GDP. And this is why a lot of people felt that we were in a recession in the last few years, but the GDP numbers didn't really say we were in a recession because we had so much people from the sheer amount of NPR immigration. It essentially just papered over the lack of growth that we had on a per person basis, right? Hence people are saying GDP per capita recession. Now that the population is planning on contracting and getting smaller, you bet the GDP is going to contract and get smaller too, right? Which means Bank of Canada has more room to cut. Do you kind of see how everything is interconnected right now? Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's a little bit complicated. Now, I'm not sure how this immigration news is going to impact the market in the future. I think we'll definitely need more data points. But in the near term, the inventory is still very high. But rates are coming down. And this population reduction will come shortly when it does in 2025 and 2026, right? Because if you look at this chart over here, you got short term, medium term, and long term. This is what I've always talked about. And in short term, it looks like this. It's bad, inventory high. In medium term, it's good, rates are coming down. In long term, it's bad, population shrinking. Talk about, volatility, right? And this is what I was preaching for a very long time. So make sure you brace yourself and get proper guidance if you're planning to make any move in the real estate market. Because depending on kind of your horizon, meaning how far along you look out, it could be a different play altogether. And if you want to chat about your unique situation, you could do so by booking a call with me using the link that's on the screen. It's right here. It's www.chatwithz.com. The link's also in the description below. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one or this one? You know what? Just watch them both.